Alrighty, students, it's Mr. Revelo again, and today we're going to be focusing on a brand new lesson. The lesson is Box 1, 2.5. Sorry, I don't know. I think the 2.5 got cut off in this. Multiply using the distributive property. One more time, the name of this lesson is Lesson 2.5, Multiply using the distributive property. Okay, and for this we're going to focus again on Box 2, icons of depth and complexity. We're going to focus on the big idea, okay? And the big idea of today's lesson is going to be focused on using the distributive property to multiply, okay? That's our biggest thing that we're working on. At this point, you're probably already familiar with multiplying factors. However, in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on how can we use the distributive property to multiply, okay? So again, just another strategy of approaching multiplication problems. Going into our box 3, our purpose. Today, we will use the distributive property to multiply a 2-digit number by a 1-digit number. Okay, so those are going to be the factors: the 2-digit number times a 1-digit number. On the bell, I need everyone to say it with me. Okay, starting with the word today in 3, 2, and today we will use the distributive property to multiply a 2-digit number by a 1-digit number. Alrighty? Getting into our box 4, APK, activating our prior knowledge. The instructions say, find the product. So again, I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to figure this out, and then I'll solve it right now. Alrighty, so I have the number for the first problem, the two numbers, 2,120 times 4. Those are my factors, and they are obviously asking us to multiply those. So the first thing that I would do is I would align this in vertical form. I would put the biggest factor on top. Okay, then I would multiply. Make sure that you align correctly. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4, comma, and 4 times 2 is 8. My product is 8,480. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to do this next one. And again, I have the numbers 300,134 times 2. I would definitely align this in vertical form. It just makes it a little bit easier for us. Okay. And then I would multiply this out. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2, comma. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. And 2 times 3 is 6. My product is going to be 600,268. So if you got both of those, great, awesome job, okay? Going on into our next box, box 5, our definitions. For our first vocabulary word, we're going to focus on the word factor. We're going to actually say factors. Factors. Numbers that are multiplied together to get a product. Okay? Or we can say answer. However, I prefer the word product. Okay? When we're multiplying two numbers, whatever we get, whatever the answer is, that is the product. So One more time, factors, numbers that are multiplied together to get a product / answer. So in this case over here, I have 3 times 6 equals 18. The two numbers that are being multiplied are the 3 right here, that's why there's an arrow, and the 6 right here. Those are the two factors, okay? Going into our next one, okay? Next vocabulary word is going to be product, okay? Product. The answer when two or more numbers, or instead of numbers we'll say factors, we'll say when two or more factors are multiplied together. And again, factors are just fancy way of saying numbers in this case. So if I'm looking at the equation 3 times 6 equals 18, my product right here is 18. So the factors 3 times 6 gave us the product or the answer of 18 in this particular example, okay? Going into our next vocabulary word, we're going to focus on the words, that is, distributive property, okay? Distributive property. So distributive property refers to multiplying that is multiplying, multiplying a number by a group of numbers added together is the same as doing each multiplication separately. And for this example, instead of writing the word multiplication, I just use the actual symbol for multiplication, partly because I didn't have enough room, okay? So one more time, distributive property. Multiplying a number by a group of numbers added together is the same as doing each multiplication separately. For example, over here on my right hand side I have 3 times parenthesis 2 plus 4, okay? And what we use a distributive property for is, rather than saying this, I can just say 3 times 2 right here plus, okay, plus 3 times 4 right here, okay? So what they're saying is, if I take 3 times parentheses 2 plus 4, and whatever I get, I'm going to get the same thing as if I were to just multiply them separately. If I were to say 3 times 2 plus 3 times 4, okay? So, for example, I don't have enough room to actually write it out right here, so I wrote it out on the top right here. I'm going to solve this for you so we can see the distributive property as it is. So, in this case, 3 times 2 plus 4 equals 3 times 2 plus 3 times 4. So let's see if this is true. Well, I would do the parentheses first, so that is going to be 6. So I would go 3 times 6, and I would get 18, okay, equals, and we're going to see if this equals over here. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 3 times 4 is 12, okay? So if I add these together, I get 18. So again, you can see 18 and 18. And this is what the distributive property tells us, okay? That we can do it differently, okay? By, just breaking it apart in a sense. So going on, let's change this color very quickly. Alrighty. So, box 6. We are getting into our critical attribute of today's lesson. So this is the main part of today's lesson. And it says, model the product on the grid, record the product. Okay? So I have the factors 4 times 14 equals blank. So normally we would just, do this in vertical form. However, they want us to use the actual grid, okay? Or we can say chart, or even a table, okay? But we must use this to actually demonstrate our work and to show it, okay? So in this case, what I want you to understand, okay, is the fact that, like I was saying, what I want you to understand is that when I'm looking at this grid, okay, there's a difference between rows and columns. For example, okay, I'm going to just kind of write it right here, row, okay? So a row is going horizontal, okay? For example, if I'm starting on the left side over here and working my way all the way down to this right side over here, that would be one row, okay? Then the second row, then the third row, then the fourth row, then the fifth row, and then the sixth row. And in terms of columns, okay, I'm going to just kind of try to write it up here. Column, it's going to go vertical. Okay, it's going to look like this, okay? So in a column, okay, I start at the top and then I just work my way down. So I have one column, I have two columns, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. So it keeps going on, okay? And that's very important. I want you to, understand that for today's lesson. Alrighty, so now we can actually start this problem. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the two factors, and I have a 4 and a 14. So what I want you to do is circle this 4 right here, because it's the smallest factor. Next, I'm going to go right here, okay? I'm just going to count 4 spaces down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put a 4 right here, okay? And after I put that 4, I'm going to highlight, okay? And I want you to do this as well, okay? Make sure that you're also highlighting this with me, okay? And I don't care what color you highlight, okay? It doesn't really matter to me. So then after I put the 4 right there, next what I'm going to do, what I want you to understand is that these 4 that are highlighted represent this number 4, okay? So I highlighted 4 because I have 4. So now we're going to look at the next factor, which is 14, but I only want you to focus on the big digit, okay? Or the digit right here in the tens place, okay? That makes more sense. So it's a 1, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the 1 right here in our first row that we highlighted, okay? Then we're just going to continue in this row and we're going to keep counting. So I include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and after I do that, okay, I need to do that for the rest of these underneath as well, okay? So since I highlighted 4 of these in this first column, I need to make sure that in the rest of these columns I do the same thing, okay? So again, if you want to put the dots there, that way you know that you also need to highlight those, okay? Feel free to do that, okay? And before we highlight, though, what I want you to understand, okay, is that when we were looking in this first row and I counted 10, okay, I'm going to put the 10 right here. It doesn't really matter where you put it, but I'd prefer to put it somewhere in the middle, okay? Next, I'm going to highlight, and again, I want you to do this with me, okay? You don't have to be perfect as you highlight, okay? But just make sure that you don't highlight in, squares that you don't need to, because otherwise we'll make a mistake, okay? So I think that's fine like this, okay? Alrighty, so if I did this correctly, what I'm saying right here with this highlighting is that 4 times 10 equals 40, okay? Because remember, we're using the distributive property and we just broke it apart. So I can count this real quick. And if I count these that are highlighted, and if I get the number 40, then I know I did it correctly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, and 40. Okay? So now what we're going to do is focus on this next digit, which is a 4. in the ones place. And I'm going to continue in this first row, okay? Right here, I'm just going to count 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And again, what I want you to do is also put the dots underneath as well, okay? We must put it right here. We need to fill in these as well, because this represents our 4 from over here on this side, okay? Next, I'm going to highlight. However, before you highlight these other ones, okay, just make sure that you highlight with a different color, okay? Here's my highlighting right here. And again, if you don't have yellow and blue, use whatever colors you have. Doesn't have to match this exactly. I think that's good enough, okay? And what we're saying by this is that these that are highlighted represent this 4, okay? And again, I just kind of put it right there in the middle. So now, if I did this correctly, I'm going to write it right here. 4 times 4 equals 16. And again, I got the first 4 from over here. This 4 from right here, okay? Now let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I did get 16 right here. Now, what I need to do because of the distributive property is I need to take the 40 that I got, okay? I'm just going to write it right here. And I need to add the 16, and I do get 56, okay? So what I would recommend is that after you do this, okay, and you're all highlighted and you have your numbers on the top, okay, that you take the original factors and that you put them in vertical form and you just multiply them out. That way you can double check that your answer is correct. So 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to put my 6 right here, put the 1 on top right there. 4 times 1 is 4, plus this 1 is 5. So I do get the product of 56, which means that we did do it correctly, okay? So again, I know that there's a lot of steps involved in this process. So if you have any questions, you know, obviously make sure that you put your star, and that way you can let Mr. Revlo know tomorrow. But if you got it all right and you feel confident, great job, okay? Going into our box 7, our example. For this, you are allowed to work with your partner on this one, okay? And it does say model the product on the grid and record the product. So what I'm going to do is obviously give you a couple seconds to see if you can get started on this. Alrighty, and if you're still working along, keep going at it. So the first thing that I'm going to do again is focus on my smallest factor, which is 6 right here. Again, I'm going to look in my first column right here. I'm just going to count 6 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm going to write my 6 right here. Then after, I'm going to highlight these 6, because again, the reason I'm highlighting this 6 is because it represents this number 6 right there. Going on, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this digit right here, which is a 1, okay, in the tens place, and then I'm going to look at my first row, and I'm just going to continue counting up till I get to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, I'm going to put the 10 right here in the middle, okay? And now what I need to do is I need to highlight. But I'm not only simply just going to highlight these 10 right here, okay? I need to highlight all of these going down until I get to this part as well. So again, make sure that you highlight this. Alrighty, just about done highlighting all this. Alrighty, and I think that's good enough. Okay, so remember, what this means, all these highlighted squares, is that 6 times 10, I'm going to write it right here, 6 times 10 equals 60, okay? So again, if you want to just double check, you can always count these. I'm not going to count them right now, though, just because of the time, but we should have 60 squares right here. And if you don't have 60 squares, then you need to obviously fix that. So now I'm going to focus on the next digit in this factor, which is a 3. And I'm going to continue in my first row up here, and I'm just going to simply count 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. Alrighty, now I'm going to continue highlighting, and make sure that you highlight with a different color. Okay, I'm just going to highlight this real quick. Highlight, just about done. Alrighty, okay. That's good enough for right now. So remember, these that I put over here represent this 3. I forgot to put it earlier, so I'm going to put it now. Okay, and what these blue ones are saying is that 6 times 3 equals 18. Okay, and again, we can always double check these by counting if we need to. So I'll do it real quick to show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I did get 18 right here, and I do have 60 right here. So now what I need to do is take the 60 and plus 18. So I do get 78. That is my product right there. Okay, so awesome job if you got that. And like I said, after you work out the problem like this, you always want to just double check by taking those original factors that you had, putting them in vertical form, and then multiplying them out. Okay, and I do get 78 as well. So awesome, awesome, awesome if you got that. Okay, great job. Let's go into box 8, our non-example. And the question is, why is this a non-example? And I'm not going to really give you time to figure out why this is a non-example, because it should pop up just like that. And the reason this is a non-example is because the person that was doing it never actually wrote anything on their grid, okay? And you may think, oh, well, that's easy, that was pretty funny, but in actuality, this actually happens to a lot of students. They say, hey, Mr. Revel, I'm working on this problem. It's kind of difficult. I'll just go back to it later on. And they never go back to it, okay? And sometimes that happens on a test or their homework, and they leave it blank and they end up missing it, okay? So, make sure that you don't do that. Or if you need to go back, that you actually put a reminder and that you do go back. So we're going to focus on these two factors, 3 times 12. Focus on 3, okay? Again, look in your first column. Just count 1, 2, 3 down. Put the 3 right there. I'm going to highlight these 3, okay? Next, I'm going to take this digit right here, which is a 1, in the tens place, and I'm going to count 10 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I need to make sure that I also highlight the second and third rows as well. Okay, so make sure that you do this. And I did forget to put the 10 on the top, so I'll go back and do that right now. Okay, this is what I was referring to. There's a 10 right there. Alrighty, so if I did this correctly, I should have 3 times 10, which equals 30. Okay, and again, the highlighted little squares in here represent 30. Okay, that represents the number 30. Now, what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to focus on my next number. Okay, so see this digit right here, which is a 2. Okay, and I'm going to start in this first row, continue. I'm just going to go 1, 2. Okay, and I'm going to put my 2 on the top. I should have done it in the different colors earlier as well. And then I'll just simply highlight this. I think that makes it a little bit easier for us. Okay. Alrighty, now that that's highlighted, I'll take the 3 times 2, and I should get 6. Okay. Now, after I get the 6, what I need to do is add that to the 30. So 30 plus 6 equals 36. That's the product right here. And again, you can always just go back and double check your work right here. Take the 12 times 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. My product is 36. So awesome job if you're understanding this and following along. Okay, we're almost done with today's lesson. So box 9, our critical attribute connections are the steps. So step 1, you're first going to read the problem, okay, carefully to decide what is being asked. And what I mean by that is, look at those factors that are there. Make sure that as you start writing on the grid that you're actually working or writing the actual factors that were in the problem. Okay, otherwise you're going to do this nice grid and all these steps for different numbers. Okay, going on to step 2, it's going to say draw a grid, okay, to model the two factors being multiplied. Okay, and again, normally I will give you grid paper, but just in case we don't have any or you're not using it, you will need to draw your own grid. Okay, step 3, you're going to focus on write the smaller factor, okay, on the grid. And remember, that's what we did earlier in box 8 when we focused on this 3 right here. We wrote the smallest factor first. Okay, now step 4, we are going to break apart the bigger factor to show the distributive property. One more time. Step 4, break apart the bigger factor to show the distributive property. Okay. So again, you can always refer to these steps if you need to. They're fairly simple and easy to follow, and they'll most likely make this lesson easier for you. So box 10, this is your sample. It says model the product on the grid and record the product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to get started on this and see if you can figure it out on your own. And again, if you need to, obviously you can work with your partner on this as well. I'm definitely okay with that. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds. Alrighty. So if you're started, okay, again, I'm going to focus on the smaller factor. It's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to highlight these 5. Okay. And again, don't forget to write the 5 right here on the side, as I tend to do. After you do that, you're going to focus on this digit right here, which is a 1 in the tens place. You're going to look in this first row and just count 10 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And put the 10 right here in the middle. Okay. And again, you're going to highlight all of this. And as you're highlighting this, I would prefer if you use an actual highlighter. If you use a pen, it might be a little hard to see. The highlighters are always easier to see. Okay. Alrighty. I think that's good to go with that. And if we did it correctly, we are saying that 5 times 10 is equal to 50. Okay. So remember, that's the first part. Now I need to focus on the second part, which in this case it's a 6. Again, continuing that first row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, I got lucky right there. Okay. And I'm going to just highlight all this. Okay. Alrighty, I think that's good enough. And what we're saying right here with this blue highlighted part on our grid is that 5 times 6 equals 30. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is take my 50 plus my 30, and I will get the product of 80. Okay. And again, if we did this correct, I can always go back just to double check, write it in vertical form. 5 times 6 is 30. Put the 0 right here, put the 3 on top. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. I get the product 80. I did do it correct. Awesome, awesome. Getting into our box 11, our recap. Okay. Today we used the distributive property to multiply a 2-digit number by a 1-digit number, okay? And again, I guess it doesn't really matter if you put 1-digit number by a 2-digit number. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. Going on, box 12, your collaborative work and homework. For your collaborative work, I want you to focus on the share and show problems 1 through 10 on page 65. For your homework, you are to do 2.5 front and back. And if I forget to give you grid paper, please let me know in class, okay? But otherwise, thank you so much for following along in today's lesson, okay? I know it was a tough lesson, but like I said, you can always ask me, if you have any questions. Thanks.